Hey guys, Richie Castellano here with another Line 6 Helix video. The topic of today's video is changing amp channels while using Snapshots. This is a question I've been getting a lot, and I've been answering a lot of emails about it, and I think I might have steered a few people the wrong way, and I'm hoping to clear things up with this. Okay, so there are a few terms here you have to be familiar with before we start. The first thing we're going to mention is the 4-cable method. What is that? Well, I have a whole video on that right here. If you don't feel like watching that video, here's the quick version. The 4-cable method allows you to place a traditional amp that has an effects loop to place the preamp section of that amp inside the internal routing of the Helix. So that means you can take like pre-effects, like say overdrives, modulation, wah, octave, all that stuff you would plug directly into the front of your amp. You can place those before the amp, and then you could place post effects like delays and reverbs after the amp, and you can do all that routing inside the Helix. It's very flexible, it's very cool. There are a lot of advantages to it. And it's called the 4-cable method because it requires 4 cables. Guitar into the front of the Helix. Now the Helix has 4 effects loops, or 2 if you're using the LT. I'm using effects loop number 4 today, doesn't matter which one you use. You take the effects send from the Helix, go into the front of your guitar amp, to the input. Now, on your guitar amp, you're going to use that effects loop. You're going to take effects send from your guitar amp, go into effects return on the Helix. Then on the Helix, you're going to take the output, I'm using left output today, and you're going to go back to the amp's return. So those are 4 cables, and that'll have everything hooked up for you. Some other things we're going to be talking about is external control. I did a whole other video on that. Today we're going to be doing 2 different examples. One is using the external amp jack on the back of the Helix. This is a 1/4-inch jack, and what you do is you plug this into your traditional foot switch jack on your amp. So if you have, for example, like a Fender DeVille that has clean and dirty via foot switch, you can actually access that from the Helix. It's really cool. The other method we're going to be using is MIDI. If you have a MIDI equipped amp, that's great because you can access all the bells and whistles. It usually goes beyond channel switching. You can do multiple channels. It usually has gain stages, contour, different features, and we'll be doing that too. If you do have an amp that has a bunch of different features and they're all 1/4-inch foot switchable, but you don't have MIDI, it's not the end of the world. You can get a little box like a Voodoo Lab control switcher, or I think Angle makes one called the Z6, and I think RJM makes one. I did another video on using those, an older video, and that'll explain that. Okay, so let's get right into it. So we're going to make snapshots that can also change your amp channel. So let me talk about my rig today. An Angle Steve Morse 100 head. This is equipped with both foot switch jacks and MIDI, so it's a great amp for this example. And I'm using my Line 6 Helix rack today, and here's the foot switch. So I have it all in the same frame. I know it's kind of hard to see, but you should get the idea. Here we go. I have a blank preset, and I'm going to start off by making a snapshot. I like to put the gate on just in case, because this can get noisy when you're hooking up all this gear. That ought to be good for now. Okay, so the first thing you need to do to get your 4-cable on is you have to go to the effects loop here, send return, mono, and I said before I have it in 4. So okay, good. So let's make sure that's working. Yep, good. So that is now in line. Beautiful. Okay, so now I'm going to set up my snapshots like I would a normal rig. So let's put some, I guess, a distortion first. I like the Minotaur, I'm a fan of that. Cool. And let's put a chorus. Now, you can pick stereo or mono effects, but this is a mono amplifier, so everything's going to come out mono anyway. Let's try this new plastic chorus. I heard that's really cool. Cool, all right. Let's put a tremolo. Now, I'm not going to go crazy making all these sounds. You can obviously do this however you want. This is more about just the execution than the actual preset. So this might not be the world's greatest snapshot preset, but you'll understand the concept when this video is over. There we go. And so these are our pre-effects. These are the ones that are behaving like you would be plugging them right into the front of your amp. And anything we put after this send and return block are your post effects. So let's put a delay here. I'm a big sucker for the vintage digital delay. Alright, so let's make it a little faster. Fine. And let's throw on a reverb. Great. Okay, another thing I'm going to do for fun a little later is we're going to put on a preamp here. Let's pick... Let me pick the archetype lead. Just to have it. Okay. I'll turn that off. So now I'm going to go about making the snapshots like I normally would. So I created my little virtual rig here, and now that what the snapshots are going to do is allow you to instantly bypass and even change the state of some of the blocks and the effects and all the things you have selected here. So okay, on the first one, let's make this like a clean chorusy sound. So let's do the plastic chorus. Let me put on a little delay and reverb, and let's rename this over here. I'll call it Clean Effects. That's nice. Okay, now you can also do this from the Helix rack unit or the floor unit without the software. It's just easier to see using this, and it's faster for now. Okay, so let's make a new snapshot. So let's go over here to snapshot number 2, and let's change the bypasses around. Let's make this one just like clean, tremolo, and reverb. You know what? Let's put on a little bit of distortion. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so we'll call this trem delay. Rename it there. Trem delay. Cool. So let's check out over here if it's actually working. Alright, so we have the clean. And trem delay. Great. Okay. So back here to the screen. Now on this third snapshot, let's make one where we just use the modeled amp. So I'm going to turn off the amp now, the effects loop, and I'm going to put on the preamp. So I'm going to have to adjust the level here. Turn the chorus off of this. Let's put a little verb on here. So now we're just using the modeled amp going directly into the power amp section, which I love doing that. And let's call this one Arc. Nice. Bring the drive down a little bit on this. Nice. Okay, and then we're going to make one more. Now you can go nuts, you can make all 8 of them. I'm just doing 4 for now. And let's put the amp back on, and let's make this like a lead sound with some delay. Yeah. Okay, so obviously we need to switch the amp channel, which is the whole point of this video. We'll call this lead for now. We have our 4 presets set up. Clean effects, trem delay, arc, and lead. But that doesn't sound very gainy right now because we need this amp to cooperate. Okay, so I have the external amp jack on the back of the Helix hooked up to the foot switch, a 1/4" jack on my amplifier. So how do we do that? I'm going to make sure I'm on my clean one. Okay, so now we're on the command center. here's how this works. All of these instant controls, these are generally all the instant commands you can issue per preset. The nice thing though is that each snapshot also resets these and can use them in different ways, and we're going to take advantage of that. So let's go to instant number 1. Let's make this external amp. Okay? And depending on how your amplifier is configured, tip might be channel 1, ring might be channel 1. I think mine is tip. So we're going to go to each snapshot and keep changing it. So I'm going to hit the second snapshot now. Good, that's the tip, tip. And the third snapshot, I'm going to change it to ring because that's where we need it to go to the gain channel. Oh, I think I just did it backwards. See, this takes a little bit of trial and error here. Okay, so really what has to happen is these snapshots all need to be on ring. Okay. Trial and error, folks. So let's see if that worked. That's what we wanted. Great. So here, I'll show you this amp again just so you can see what's happening. Okay, so this is supposed to be on my clean channel. You can see that there with the green light. Still on my clean channel. This bypasses the amp altogether, so it doesn't matter. And now when I hit this button, it's supposed to change. Let's see if it works. Yep, beautiful. So to review, you can use the instant commands and they reset per every, well not reset, but they can be configured differently for each snapshot. And you can issue 6 of them. So if you have different, MIDI devices or whatever, you can do that. But when you're using just the external amp, 1 instant command will be fine. So let's save this. Okay, now we're going to use MIDI. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it here. I should probably rename it, but whatever. Okay, so anyway, now we're going to do it strictly MIDI. So I'm going to unplug my foot switch so I can access this via MIDI. Okay, there are a few different ways to do this depending on what gear you have. If you have an amplifier that has MIDI memory like this one, for example, there's this little switch over here that says write and copy, and that allows me to change the state of the amp, whatever channel boosts I have engaged, and it'll save to a MIDI program number. That's great. Other amps might have CC commands to do different things, to access different ons and offs, and this amp does both. But right now we're just going to focus on the program changes, but like I said, it depends on how your amp works. So let's go back to the command center, and we don't need these anymore. So I'll take off all of these. Yeah, good. On my first clean thing here, I'm going to now issue a MIDI bank program command. Now, it's really important to know what MIDI channel your amp is set to if you're using multiple pieces of gear. If you're not using multiple pieces of gear, you can use bass, and I believe that's like Omni, where that's going to all 16 channels, okay? Bank, that depends on, again, if you have multiple banks. I don't think I do for this amp, or I don't think I have them programmed at least. I just have everything in the first bank. Okay, so I wrote down where I had the program numbers changed. Now my clean sound is program number 6. Okay, great. So when I hit this first snapshot, I want this to be on the clean channel. Okay, now on this one, see how when I change snapshots, it reset? That's exactly what you want. Okay, this one, let's say I want to use the crunch channel. And, okay, so that one I have to change the program number to program number 4. Okay. Great. And for this one, we don't need anything. And then for this one, we need the lead, which I have to 15. Great. Okay, so let's see if that's working. Phenomenal. Okay. So I have all 3 channels of my amp now successfully mapped to these snapshots. Here's Here's my clean. It's a little loud, sorry guys. I have my crunch channel here. I have nothing bypassed here with the Archon or Archetype. And then I have the lead, goes to the lead channel. So there, we did it. Now you might be wondering, where are you getting these program numbers from? Well, they're programs that I made in the amp. If you're not sure, if you have a piece of MIDI gear or a MIDI amp that you've never done this with, what you can simply do is just assign numbers. Like, so for example, if we're back here, if this doesn't work properly, what we could do is we could say for snapshot number 1, this will be number 1, this will be number 2, this will be number 3, and this will be number 4, and then program your amp to that. So when you hit this pedal, let your amp know, and that usually there's like a write function or a record or a program or whatever function, and let your amp know, okay, when I hit this, I want you to set yourself up like this. When you hit this, you know, and vice versa. But I just happen to know the amp functions. So another thing we can talk about is the controller features. Now, your amp might not switch channels this way. It might switch channels through CC numbers, or it might have access to other features. Now, if you want to access those features on the CC numbers, you have to consult your amp's manual. It's very important. So here I have the manual for my Engel amp, and you'll notice in the back here, there's a little section that lets you know about what controller functions can be, you know, accessed through CC numbers here. So we have amp mute, master AB, high gain, low mid. So if I wanted something like that to happen, it's sort of pointless, because using the amp this way with the program changes, it takes care of all that. But if for any reason your amp had to work that way, use a controller number. So let's say, for example, I want an amp mute on snapshot number 5, and that's controller number 7, right? So let's go back here. So let's go over to snapshot number 5, and I'm going to go here, because this is not a bank program change. This is a controller change. I'm going to go to MIDI CC, again, bass, controller number 7, and it's usually on or off, so I'm going to put it all the way on, and now let's see if that works. Okay, we did it the opposite way. It's got to be off, so let's go back to this. So it has to be down there and on for everything else. So all this stuff takes a little bit of trial and error. So let's see if that worked. Okay. So that's working fine, and then we hit this, and there's your amp mute. So that's how that works, and you can apply this principle to anything. So for every snapshot, you can have a program change, you can have a MIDI CC change, you can have multiple MIDI CC changes if you want. You can have an external amp change, you can do all this fun stuff for every single snapshot, and you can do up to 6 of them at a time. So that's it. I hope that was helpful. I hope that explained how to do this with snapshots. It's really, really cool and ridiculously flexible. And if you have a 4 cable setup and you want to use snapshots, this is the way to go. So thanks for watching, and make sure you comment and like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. That really helps me out, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching this video. To see even more videos, make sure you subscribe to this channel. If you'd like to interact with me on social media, please follow my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. If you like podcasts, check out my show Band Geek on the Riotcast Network. For tour dates and even more info, go to richiecastellano.com. Now, here's a video I picked just for you. I think you'll like it. Go ahead, click it. It's good. Eh?